welcome you to the 2019 edition of the Human Resource Expo Africa HREA Summit. This year's theme is the art of employee.
Welcome to you to this session because you had to come too far at top, which shows that you really want to hear about this subject matter. So I'd like to say very welcome. Okay, so my name is Funke Amobi. I'm the country head of human capital for Stanbic IBTC Holdings PLC, and I'm the session, if you like, speaker for this breakout session that is titled Developing Purposeful Leaders Through Employee Engagement. In the next 40, 50 minutes, I believe we're going to be talking about that. And at some point, we're going to get the opportunity to interact, to ask questions and exchange views. I've got quite a lot to go through, but I'm going to be time managed. So as I go through the time, I may choose to skip some slides and run very quickly. But the big deal is that I'm happy for us to engage outside of here continuously in the subject matter. So employee engagement is something that is very topical to all of us as HR professionals, and the truth is that that's what exists for. The organization depends on us to keep our people engaged, to keep our people connected. And now we're talking about, when I got this topic, to be honest with you, I at some point thought, was there a mistake? And then it caused me to reflect some more. So it's developing purposeful leaders through employee engagement. Sometimes you're like flipping it the other way to say, you're driving an employee engagement through something. But now we're talking about how do we develop purposeful leaders through employee engagement. Interesting. So I'm going to be looking at this in, a number of ways. Traditional, not so traditional, then we'll get practical to look at what companies do on this subject matter. Now, opening thoughts. As we like to say as HR professionals, we exist because the business exists, correct? And the business exists for a purpose. We're telling the story now. The business exists for a purpose. And it really doesn't matter whether you're private sector, public sector, whether you're a non-for-profit or you're in a special sector, because people easily get into sector mode to say, in my sector, this is not very important. I take the view that it's important in every sector. Okay? So we're talking about business landscape, what's going on there? Before we get to the subject of employee engagement or even purposeful leadership, it is why do we exist as a business? In the environment around the business, what is going on? So, business as usual is no longer business as usual. Does that sound interesting? And I can see some nods. There's no business environment that is usual anymore. There's disruption driven by technology, driven by digitization, driven by the mobile agenda. Do you understand? It's all upon us. Hands up in the air. I haven't touched my mobile phone today. So it's a different workforce that you're managing. Is that correct? When some of us in this room started working some I won't tell you the figure, years ago, there really was no phone. There wasn't even GSM. GSM came in a celebrated mode. So I was a different type of worker. So hello, when you're talking about engaging me, employee engagement for me at the time is different from employee engagement now. Do you agree with me? Because everything I want now I can get at the flip of a button. I dashed down here with my colleague Sola. Sola is Yosola, they're trying to see your beautiful face. Yosola is the Cultural Employee Engagement Manager for Stanbic IBTC. So she came in and she was going to go to her desk normally. And by mistake, she said hello to me. So it was by mistake. So I said, by the way, you're coming along. It was supposed to be hello, because I felt it's a subject matter, correct? So you should be coming along with me to this session. So employee engagement is taking a different terrain now. Why? Because there's an unusual landscape that business has to deal with. And today's reality is even more, let me show you some more complexity. This is today's reality. External environment hugely VUCA, as I say, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Thank you, sir. And there's so much going on in the hyper environment, competition, regulatory. Am I correct? Driving purposeful leadership is in the context of all of this. So we're going to get it wrong if we don't know entirely in what context are we doing, are we attempting to drive purposeful leadership through employee engagement. We're looking at, an environment where business models are changing rapidly. So employees have to change in that space. Individual contexts and individual preferences are changing according to societal demands, according to generational gaps. So there are all sorts of paradox in the environment now. Paradox like you have to do more with less. Hello? Is that not what we're told in our organizations? Paradox like let's try for agility whilst we carry everybody along. So robust consultation at the same time, let's do it speedily. But you have to go around and ask everybody, don't leave anyone out, but do it like yesterday. And we're hearing, go global. Make sure everybody can see what you have to sell. At the same time, remain authentic to yourself, but you must make sure that everybody has the reach. So, extensively, new generation leaders are they have to wear a different hat because it's a different environment. Leaders are getting into the C-suite. Millennials are now getting into the C-suite. A former colleague of mine, Fola Ayisheboju, I hope I got his name right, he just got appointed as a group managing director for USC conglomerate. He's 37, group MD. He's going to wear different hats from some people who are maybe 50, 60, or nearing retirement in a USC. Do you understand what I'm saying? So leaders have to wear different hats, is what we're talking about. And they have to think of, we're now hearing leaders thinking beyond self, organization, into society at large. And they're wearing that as leadership, as a leadership essence. So this subject matter, Funke, let's come to it in detail. I've decided to take a view to use 3 positioning questions. Firstly, what is the connection between purposeful leadership, employee engagement, if any, and organizational performance? That's my first positioning question. The second one is, what is research saying about this? Like research, because people have gone and tested the waters. They've gone and, what is research saying? And finally, positioning question. What are some leading organizations doing to grow leaders through employee engagement? What are they paying attention to? So I'm going to seek to answer these 3 positioning questions in 3 buckets. My first bucket is going to be, and all I said to my colleague who put the slides together was, I'd like to do it, these are my positioning questions, and I'd like to do it in 3 buckets. And she actually puts 3 buckets in the slide. When I saw it, I screamed, millennials again, I would never do that. If my CEO says I want to do it in 3 buckets, I'll be looking for some very, artistic way of representing the 3 buckets. And she gave me 3 physical buckets. So take it away. That's courtesy David Adi. Research frameworks exist that I can tie this knowledge to. Because when you understand, as HR people, as OD specialists, we think framework. When you understand what the framework provides, you can make the connection and you can do, an easy reminder to the subject matter. So we're going to see what are the frameworks that exist. And then, of course, organizational case studies. If it's working, then organizations should actually implement it. All right. We should be able to copy and paste from there. So what's the connection between leadership, behaviors, organizational purpose, vision, employee engagement, and indeed organizational performance? I'm going to ask that the mic goes to the floor. I need someone to please give us, what are your views? What's your perspective? What's the connection between these constructs? Anybody? What's your perspective? Anybody willing to share? The microphone will come to you. What are your views? Any connection? Otherwise, we shouldn't be in this session if there's no connection at all between purposeful leadership and employee engagement. I thought I'll take 2 contributions. None is coming out. Thank you, sir.
Let me just start. My name is Yinka Latulosu. I work with Ask, the HR director. It's very simple.
Fantastic.
When an organization, to start with, an organization is an organization because of its culture, which definitely is derived from the vision or what the organization stands for. And from there, you should have a culture that will make your employee wants to wake up and come to work. So we're tending towards engaging them. Put things in place to get your employees engaged for them to want to come to work. And briefly, whilst engaging your employees, not just engaging them, maybe this is where Funke will come in because that is why I came here. How do we build these leaders? How do we build leaders whilst engaging employees?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. A round of applause for you. My colleague, I'm glad you came to my rescue. So thank you, absolutely, spot on. But look at what we're talking about. And you see the connection to what Olayinka talked about now. The organization exists for its vision. There's a commitment to our stakeholders. And there is the self part of the individual employee. I exist for myself and I know what my value system is. Purposeful leadership is, I recommend that you look out for an article. I was stopping to think if I brought it along. An article, Construct of Purposeful Leadership. It's a CIPD Chartered Institute of Personnel Development in the UK. Just call it up. It tells you exactly what purposeful leadership is about. But I'm going to define it in a short while. So, purposeful leadership is a different construct of leadership that is saying not just leadership by setting examples for people to follow, but it's leadership that is about a number of things. It's leadership that is about values. It's leadership that is about alignment between the personal value and a purpose. It's leadership that is aligned to a purpose that is derived from a vision and a mission. So, at Standard Bank Group, our purpose is Africa is our home. Drive her growth. Accordingly, we've got values that are aligned to enabling us articulate this purpose, find expression with this purpose. So those who lead successfully are leaders who are able to imbibe the purpose of the organization, the vision of the organization, okay? They are passionate about it to the extent that they can share a compelling vision with other employees. They are, of course, positive about this. They can propel others with the same vision and the same purpose. So we're talking about leadership that is connected with the entire essence of the organization. When we talk about employee engagement, we're talking about simply how employees show up at work with the best of themselves. A connected employee shows up at work with the head, with the heart. My slides have gone off, somebody help. With the head, with the heart, blessing, please help, and the hands. So a highly engaged employee, we understand, will go the extra mile. The highly engaged employee would go the extra mile. Now my slides are moving faster than I am. Okay. The head, the heart, and the hands. He would accordingly go the extra mile. So that's where the discretionary effort comes from. I'm not going to spend time defining employee engagement to a large extent because we all do understand. But by and large, we graduate what we call engagement with qualifications. We say actively engaged. When you're actively engaged, it means you will go the extra mile regardless of what sacrifices you have to pay. So it's not the subject of how much am I being paid. It's the subject of I am doing this for a purpose. Stay with me, guys. And driving purposeful leadership through employee engagement is talking about how are you doing, for what are the reasons why you're doing this? I'm at work because I need to earn a pay. Aren't we all? I am. I'm sure you are. Now, why else are you at work? Remember I talked about things happening, generational shift. The millennials these days, when they interview with you, they would ask you questions that suggest that they are no longer looking for the job just because of the pay. Otherwise, the kind of questions they're asking me, I'm almost asking, what is your business with that? They're asking, so what do you guys invest your profits in? You want to come and work now. What's your business? What I'm investing my profits in? Purpose. Purpose. What do you guys as a bank invest your profits in? In what other stakes are you present? What else is important to you apart from making money as an organization? Why is that important to you as a prospective employee? Because people work now for a higher purpose. And we'll get there shortly. Let's stay together. Purposeful leadership, employee engagement, nicely defined now out of. So we're talking about organizational performance, as Olayinka said, being the subject matter of why the organization exists. However, it cannot happen in isolation. There is the level of motivation of those in the organization, called organizational motivation. There's a level of organizational capacity, the skills and competences that people bring to the workplace. There is the external environment, am I correct? Where your regulators and, your macro environment and the macro variables come into play. All of this help the organization achieve its outcome. Now let's go into my first bucket, research. Scholars have gone ahead of us to unpack this. Deloitte, Burson Deloitte is, Burson by Deloitte is a research body I recommend to you most human capital subjects. But this employee engagement they've done in an insightful way. So they call it an irresistible organization. They say that organization that is able to retain people who are going the extra mile seamlessly, who are completely aligned with the purpose of the organization, is an irresistible organization. I'll throw it on that. Research. I'll show you DDI, Development Dimensions International, also an extension of Deloitte, said something, scientifically helped us through research, causal relationship between organizational performance and employee engagement. Then I'll talk about the Buck-Litwin model. It's an organizational development model that helps us see that very many variables come together in a cause and effects manner. And when there's a problem in one, there's an impact in the other. Hence, you need to develop, you can develop purposeful leadership or leaders through employee engagement. And then finally, I'll look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's research that we all understand, we know very well, but how does it how can you overlay employee engagement theory on Maslow's theory? Then would have been done with research. Organizationally, I'm going to show you, there are 3 organizations that catch my fancy. The first one I'm sure you know. Stanbic, IBTC, Stanbic Group, that catches my fancy on how we do the linkages of driving, purposeful leadership through employee engagement. Unilever has a brilliant, somebody's from Unilever here, a brilliant example too, and then there's Citibank as well. And then hopefully we'll be done. So research findings, back to the first bucket. I'm going to go very quickly on research findings because you can actually go and Google it up yourself. So here we go, simple. What's my first research saying? It's saying that, again my slides are moving, what's going on? Don't worry, I'll figure it out, listen. Okay, very simple. The global organization, should we start from there? Yeah. Again, a Burson by Deloitte research. It says that leadership is now becoming, apart from leadership being a global agenda, it's now becoming topical in the minds of, HR and global businesses. How do we grow businesses? Do I have 15 minutes more? You must be kidding me. All right. So let's see how we land this. So how do we grow our leaders? How do we accelerate millennials into leadership? At the same time, how do we drive a new ethos for work? The same, as I said earlier on, millennials are beginning to ask questions. Beyond how much are you going to pay me? They're saying things like, what else is your business doing? Why should I come and work for you? I not only want opportunity, I want a sustainable organization. And if I drive that further and said things like, okay, what much more we see about Deloitte's simply irresistible organization is saying that, and they present this as engagement drivers, meaningful work, supportive management, positive work environment, career growth opportunities, trust in leadership. Now, take a look at the particularly the focus on building leaders. Follow the red circles. So if these are engagement drivers, these are the reasons why people are engaged, correct? Have a look. Meaningful work, supportive management. In all of these engagement drivers, pockets of leadership behaviors, correct? Driving purposeful leadership through employee engagement. So there's no divorcing engagement from leadership. Research, if you look up the Irresistible Organization, you'll actually be able to tell just exactly how can I make this work? What should our leaders be focusing on? Here we go. So, what about the linkage? What does research tell us between the linkage between employee engagement, leadership, and indeed organizational performance? Interesting. The first one is in our model, Buck and Litwin and individuals, who said, look, there is a constant relationship between 14 dimensions in any organization, one of which is leadership, second of which is motivation, before you see the impact of the organizational performance. So, strong connection between how leaders are able to effectively motivate. Whether they are doing it in a purposeful manner or not becomes another agenda, which I'll touch on. But how are leaders able to successfully motivate to ensure that organizational performance happens? Buckley Twin took his position that it's cause and effect relationship. If the leaders effectively motivate, you are likely to have easy outcomes with organizational performance and vice versa. Now, if you take that further, again, those are the red circles to follow. Those are the red circles to follow. If you take this further that's my last research speak, so I can do case studies before we shut down. Maslow's theory of needs. You could get confused if you don't stay with me closely on this. So Maslow says there are 5 levels of needs, and that you are motivated when your need at that level is met, correct? So it's easy to say you will be engaged as an employee, willing to go the extra mile if I meet your needs, correct? So number 1 is it says survival level. Now this theory takes my explaining for you to understand. Maslow says that, listen, at the base where survival is the agenda. Pay me so I can I'm here to make a living. Pay me so I can pay my bills. Pay me so I can deal with my financial commitments, not beyond that. Maslow is saying that at that level, I would expect that engagement would be at a very low margin. He said, but at a higher level of needs, which is actualization, at that time, you're not paying me because I want to pay my children's school fees. Perhaps indeed, there's already another stream of income that can potentially pay my bills. However, I am interested in ensuring that myself is fulfilled. And this doesn't have anything to do with grade levels, by the way. I can be an entry level and I'm already at self-actualization, correct? Yes. And I'll tell you, I had it, and this is by way of digression. One of our cover ladies in our women network in Stanbic IBTC, Blue Women Network, a lady called Farida. She's a graduate trainee, so that tells you she's at the entry level. Her needs in code were to work for a company that was big on sustainability, a company that was big on giving back to the society, young and just entering the workforce. Guess what? She has an NGO already. Guess what? She's already running sustainable programs that put her on the pages of the newspapers already. That's why we made her a cover lady on our magazine. By the time she was interviewed, because to get on the cover page, we've got to interview you to know that you've got something we're selling. When she came through the interview, your seller and I, late at night, he was in my house. Finally found her, we interviewed her. No, everybody was in their houses. It was teleconference. Before you start saying that, those people in the bank, they walk around the clock. I was having a nice meal at home when she called. She had missed my call. So I said, hang on. She started talking. I said, hang on. I dialed in yourself. Hang on. Dialed in another person. It was mind-blowing. When she was done, I felt poor myself. All how many decades of work. What have you given back to the society? I think I haven't done badly there, but I really felt very poor. This young lady is just starting. She already had an NGO before she came for a graduate training program. And she said to me, Funke, when I got the employment for Stanbic IBTC, it was clear to me that I needed to do more. I needed to put more in my NGO, otherwise it would suffer. She said, then I decided to hire a personal assistant. Then she said, and when he came on board, I said, wait, you hired a guy? She said, yes. When he came on board, things actually got fairly stable. Purpose, driving purposeful leadership through employee engagement. You cannot continue and give her a fulfilling career if she cannot find part of her find expression. Am I correct? Purposeful leadership, we're finally getting there. So Farida is playing at this level. What can I do for others? I inspire others to be at their best. I am fulfilled. It's not about whether I'm earning money. Guess what? She's fairly, well-to-do family. And you know what happened? When she set out on this mission, thank you, her dad said, I'm not giving you any money. And she said, it's okay, I will raise the money. She said they have a family chat room. She started posting all her stuff on the chat room. And when the father saw, the father said, excuse me, are you doing all this? Feeding the poor, going on mission? She was all over the place. The father said, okay, I'll give you some money. Called her and said, I'll give you some money. She said, I thought he was going to just give me a one-off check. The dad gave her a monthly payment into that account. When she was done talking, I said, hey, Farida, help me now. Me too. I want to start doing some things. They are in my head. I haven't quite. She now started, okay, Funke, you can do this in like 4 steps. Step 1, put it together in a paper. We're not on the phone. Step 2, she was now coaching me. Register it with CSC. Step 3, oh, I felt poor. Purpose. So, Maslow said that when you get into the area of purposeful leadership, you can't leave. Farida couldn't have left her purpose at home and come to work for Stanbic happily. Her purpose had to follow her to the workplace. Purposeful leadership. So when they get to the point where they are being actualized, fine. So how are organizations doing this? I'm getting so excited now, purposeful leadership. Find a purpose. Find the leader that is aligned with that purpose. They are often at the level of engagement. Listen, it's not by, again, I'll rephrase it. It is good that I found the opportunity to work for a company, or have found the opportunity to work for companies in my career whose identity align with my purpose. I'm very passionate about Africa, Nigeria in particular. I am not apologizing that I am African. Neither am I apologizing I'm Nigerian. I had the opportunity to school in Lancaster University, and my alumni is here. She's smiling to me. And once upon a time, one of the lecturers said to me, you speak English so well, Funke. You must have been born in the UK. I said, oh no, you're wrong. I was born in Nigeria. Oh, then you must have schooled in the UK. No, this is my first time schooling in the UK. And I'm an adult already. So you must have been taught by British teachers in Nigeria. No, Nigerian teachers. By that time, he stopped. He got the message, isn't it? There's good in the country. I used to go to Lancaster in those days. You remember me as an alumni. I used to go back and teach and talk to them, say, come back home. I tell them, home is where your heart is. Africa is our home. We drive our growth. The British will come and drive it for us. So, thankfully I got to work for NTN, deliberate about Africa. Thankfully I'm working for Standard Bank, deliberate about Africa. You see, when those videos pop up in the workplace, Africa, there's an energy in the room. If you cannot feel it, you're probably not going to be at the highest level of engagement. And you're probably not going to be at the highest mode of selling the same purpose to somebody else. Some organizations have tried to figure out, so how can they connect both? So at Stanbic IBTC for us, we've got 5 strategic client drivers, which you can't see up there. Client focus, client centricity, employee engagement, 2nd, 3rd, risk and conduct for the industry we're in, 4th, financial. So financial outcomes is only a 4th. We believe we must have done client engagement well, employee engagement well, risk and conduct well for financial outcomes. I got it, 5 minutes more. For financial engagement, financial outcomes. Okay. You see, that's a banker. Madam, 5 minutes up there. Somebody here said 9 minutes more. I'll leave you both to reconcile. So, at the end of the day, for us, employee engagement is a 3rd construct, then financial outcomes, then sustainability. See what we call social economic impact. So if we've done all of these and there's no social economic impact, then how have we, it's not only about financial outcome. So when you come as a leader, we sell this to you. We expect you to imbibe that purpose and you sell it to others to drive their motivation, to keep them at the highest levels of engagement. And so we have a few products that help us do that. So employee engagement for us is the extent to which, by the way, this is your solar slant, extent to which people are passionate about their work. We have a way of measuring it on an annual basis, a customized tool for the entire Standard Bank. And we have a leadership identity. Across all our geographies, our leaders must come with a particular identity. That identity is what drives purposeful leadership. We put people through what we call leadership identity to maintain levels of engagement. And these are our engagement numbers, upward dive in the last 3-4 years. It's a 3-year trend. We call it ENPS, Employee Net Promoter Score. Okay, typically designed after the Net Promoter Score methodology. And so how do we do this typically? You see, with that stakeholder universe, you see what we say. Leadership is one part of a stakeholder, is a key stakeholder group. The employees and line and human capital. Leadership, very key. So what do we do? Leadership identity, 8 characteristics. All of what you expect to see. A leader must be trusted to do the right thing, must be real and approachable. All of the time, when I'm in my fast, I'm asking myself, how are these people measuring me on this leadership identity characteristics? Am I real and approachable? I also must be bold to be able to take courageous decisions. So we've articulated this, we're deliberate about it. It's clear. We're not saying be a purposeful leader, you're wondering, your interpretation is different. I'm sorry, madam, what's the name? Feel is thinking differently. But are you guys thinking differently? No, it's one agenda. We've defined it and everybody knows it. We've taken you through an immersion and an acculturation that enables you know this is how I'm expected to show up, to drive employees. And we've not drive employees to deliver performance, again, drive employee engagement. Because it's clear to us that when they're engaged, performance will come. It's a simple ABC. Here we go. So for us, it's about driving engagement and productivity. We call it EMP. Why are you engaged if you're not productive? Is it only excitement, energy? Energy to do what? To do more. So here you go. We define it. This is the one I wanted to read to you. Where's my Africa? Centered across Africa, innovating for the future. How can we have a leadership definition that doesn't have Africa in it? Do you understand? Centered around the most. Africa must give you some excitement. How can you have an Africa career? I'm excited about it. Okay, so that's our leadership identity. A set of guiding principles where we expect, employees to imbibe it and leaders to imbibe it and drive results. We have another program we call mentoring. We identify future leaders who are in our talent pool, and we take them through an 18-month program. The 18-month program is deliberate about letting them develop, deliberate about letting them connect with other leaders, i.e. the CEOs who mentor them, and also connect with one another, future leaders, and at the same time give value back to the organization. Another deliberate way of building purposeful leadership. Leaders who understand the purpose and are ready to run with it and are ready to get other people motivated and excited along the same purpose. So it's all about the structure. I think I'm going to skip this, to be honest. I was going to show you my CEO's video on leadership development. Recently, we had to do it for another reason. We had to do this video, and I thought it was good to just put it in. So what is the CEO saying about leadership development? No, I'm going to skip it because I need to run fast now. So it's just a video, it's his views. I just thought you should hear from a CEO. What are they expecting? So he answered 2 questions. What are your thoughts on leadership development? And then we asked him the question, what do you expect HR to do in leadership development? And the man said, a lot. That's how he started it, a lot. And I thought it was good for you all to hear that the CEOs think we should do a lot when it comes to do with leadership development and aligning it in particular with employee engagement. I'm very big on employee engagement because I think that it's a science of profit and loss. On the people's side, it's a science of profit and loss. Show me a company that's constantly making losses, and I'll look at 3 dimensions: strategy, people, processes. I'll look at the strategy. First of all, if it's crooked from that place, to be flawed, you're correct, it's flawed. Then I'll look at the processes. Then I'll look at the people. People before even process. Once the people, you have the right people in the right place, right people, profiled rightly, doing the right jobs, in the right numbers, hopefully, yeah. Then I'm asking you, are they engaged? How? And you know, people can say, my company is not so big, Funke, we cannot go into all this employee engagement and measurements at a big level, but you can. Even in your house, you can figure out which of your domestic workers is engaged and not engaged. Feel is like, she's smiling. She knows how to get that done. Connect with her if you want to. You can develop these models by yourself. I can. And as we wrap up, so, organizations are doing interesting things. Unilever is an interesting case study. Citibank is an interesting case study too. So what's Unilever doing? They have a universal standard of leadership. So you can Google all this up. They defined who a leader should be and how a leader should help us make others, act. And I also like City's example. City also has City's leadership standards. And they define, living our values. You must understand the purpose, why we're here, and transfer the purpose onto others. Purposeful leadership. So if I should bring this to a closure with the role of HR, our job is very busy. We have the responsibility to identify, articulate it clear, be sure that the purpose of the organization is clear. Be sure that there are enablers within the system, i.e. policies, procedures, learning and development, that enable this purpose come to life. And I also think that beyond that, we must be sure that we are in a position to assess. So broadly speaking, assess what is going on, collect feedback, take action, keep it cyclical, moving on. This is what is going on around our culture and employee engagement, and what action does leadership need to take. And my take, which is your takeaway, I give that to you free of charge. Don't pay for it. I think it's just about three things. One, ownership. Who owns this agenda? Is this an agenda item, driving employee engagement? Is it an agenda, building purposeful leadership? Combining the two together, is it an agenda item? Secondly, put a structure around it. Put structure around it. What programs are you going to use to articulate this integration? I told you the programs we use at Stanbic IBTC. You have to be deliberate about putting structure to it. If you heard my CE, we talked about structure. Thirdly, measurement. So it's about three things. Building purposeful leadership, driving purposeful leadership through employee engagement. Technically, it's about three things. One, ownership. Who owns their agenda strategically and who gives it expression? Two, therein comes human capital. Who puts in the structure in place to enable this integrated strategic agenda find expression? Thirdly, again, the space of human capital. What are the metrics and the measures for ensuring that this integrated, very important business agenda actually happens and comes to pass? Who does the measurement? How? When? What action do you take after the measures tell you the story? And thereafter, you continue with whatever your blueprint or your action plan tells you to do. So, on this note, ladies and gentlemen, I hope with these few points of mine, I have been able to convince you that driving or building purposeful leadership through employee engagement is a strategic agenda. It is doable. It is practice that makes perfect. But you must start the process of, articulating how are we going to, get this agenda item, how are we going to bring it to life in our organization, how are we going to make it a strategic imperative that enables us improve the performance of our organization. It's not a nice to have. In my view, it's a must have. Yeah. Are you likely to perform as an organization without doing it? Yes. Are you likely to improve your chances of performing? Yes. Are you likely to improve your chances of performing with less effort? A bigger yes. But you first of all have to bring it onto the table and onto your agenda. I wish you all the very best as you do this. Thank you. Now our time is completely up. So I cannot begin to advocate for question and answer. All I can say, the organizers are trying to get us out of here, am I correct? And bring another class in. Hello organizers, are we able to take a question? 2, no, yes?
Question.
Oh, thank you, you're even here and I was looking for you there. Okay, one question. Fastest finger. Fastest hand to go up. Thank you, Phil. The two ladies, let's take the two of them. Their hands went up at the same time. Come, woman of God. We'll take both of them. I'll take 2 questions and I'll respond. Take the microphone.
Good morning, all. Wonderful presentation, Funke. You never disappoint us anytime. I didn't know you were going to be in this class. So it was just God that directed me because I was actually passionate about the leadership aspect of this session. I think mine is more of a comment. I think that to progress on doing purposeful leadership, we first of all have to start by bringing in people with purpose. Just like Funke shared with us around Farida, she's someone who already had a purpose, and it's easier for us to be able to transit these people into purposeful leadership if they initially come with a purpose, because there is a school of thought that says you can't motivate someone who is not already self-motivated. We also live in a space where leadership, a lot is expected of it in terms of how do they live the ethos that they propagate. And if as leaders within business, and I believe all of us are at various stages of leadership, if as leaders in a business we are not able to live the commitments, live the values that we propagate, then we discourage the younger leaders from actually actualizing the mission of becoming leaders. So I would like to say thank you all. Thank you, Funke.
Thank you, Phil.
Wonderful session.
Thank you, Phil. Excellent comments. Thank you so much, Phil. Excellent comments.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Funke, for this wonderful session. Like she said, I was directed here, I was led here because I'm very passionate about leadership development. But for me, the narrative is more not driving purposeful leadership through employee engagement, but rather driving employee engagement through purposeful leadership. So I found myself in organizations where, there's a disarray in the leadership part. I won't say disarray, but then the leaders don't have that strong culture. So we're trying to, make them purposeful, because you do have employees that are engaged and are willing to be committed, but then they're looking at leadership and saying, hey, it's not right at the top. So the question I have is, okay, fine, we have programs in place, to make these leaders purposeful, but then you find that they don't carry these things through. So fine, they sit down in structured trainings and all of that, but then they go into class, they learn, and everybody has the halo effect, and then when it's time to come back to sit down to work, you hear comments like, that doesn't work in the real world, so we're back to square one. You talked about metrics and all that, but at the end of the day, I'm thinking, is it really HR that owns this thing? It's actually management that owns, the drive for purposeful leadership. So what do you do when even the people that own it are not even, walking the talk? How do you hold them accountable, to make sure that those programs as HR you're putting in place to build them are actually carried through?
Fantastic question, and I'm glad to meet you. So you're absolutely spot on. That's why we say there are 3 to the stakeholder universe of employee engagement. There's leadership, and by leadership really mean the CEO, the leaders that follow the CEO. And then there is line managers, who are the people who are in contact with the employees. And the leaders are also in the direct then the line managers as well, correct? Before you can talk of the HR, the third stakeholder part of our own universe in my company. It starts with the CEO and the leadership. Okay, what if the CEO is the one who's not purposeful and who's not ready to be aligned? To be honest with you, I'll say there's no agenda yet. I'll say employee engagement is happening, it's happenstance. You know what we mean by happenstance? It's happening by itself. It's not yet a strategic agenda item. Pause it. You could find what are the priorities as far as the CEO is concerned. The priority may just be drive performance, care how you do it. Just get people to run and do the work. It's not the best, which is why I end by saying, can your organization actually perform? Yes. Without being desperate about employee engagement? Yes. But can it perform better? Yes. Can it perform even better in a seamless manner? Bigger, yes. You have to let your CEO see. And it's not an easy place to be, but you have to keep at it to let your CEO see this is your agenda. If it's not yours, we have no, it's not about saying, human capital, go and help, go and do that employee engagement and do it right. No. I'm supporting you to drive employee. You must be the owner of the subject. That's why I said it about 3 things. Ownership, number 1. If you get ownership wrong, forget about structure. HR is only beginning to run around and put structure around benchmark, copy and paste and all of that. We don't need to do that if it's not on the strategic agenda. So you get that right before you go into, thankfully you've mentioned it, you start with ownership, you end with metrics. You don't measure what has not been owned. You can't start with metrics, KPIs, employee engagement framework, which is structure. No, it starts with ownership. Then you put a structure in place and you begin to be deliberate about your 3 initiatives. You end with measure what we're doing, and then roll it back. Yosola's work for us is full of measuring. So she holds the structure and she holds the measures. Very exciting piece of work. She's pulling us back every day. And if you ask me what I may struggle to, but she can slice and that's that data for you anyhow. By anything, by gender, by age, by demographics, she can slice it by anything you want to tell you the engagement story. That is part of structure you put in place and metrics. But all of that is only because it's a strategic agenda, which one person, remember I said to you, at the Stanbic level, employee engagement is a strategic value driver. There are 5 value drivers defined by the leadership of the institution, owned by everyone. So you cannot even be a successful CEO if it's not on your agenda. It's been defined that there are 5 things we'll measure you by. So by all means, even the board will sign off on you to say, these are the strategic drivers by which we will measure your progress. And that now drives ownership. That now empowers structure. And that now makes it easy for metrics to roll out. Otherwise, why are you measuring something that has not yet been deliberately structured in place? And thank you, Phil, for your excellent remarks. I think at this time we're really going to have to draw the closure because the second session is here. I'd like to thank you for being a wonderful audience. Thank you.